Welcome to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Hey, that's me. Hi, and welcome to Positive Talk. Our show features the best positive stories and people from around the globe as we endeavor to answer the universal question of why am I here and what is my purpose? Understanding that can change everything, and knowing your greatness is fundamental to living your best life. So join us right now as together we work to create the adventure of our lifetime. Welcome to the show, everybody. We have got a fascinating guest who does all kinds of stuff. She's an author, she's a speaker, she's a business leader, she's an entrepreneur. She is pretty amazing, and she was brought to us by my good friend John Varico, who's co-hosting today. He's right there, as you can see. And if you can't see him, it's because you're listening. But trust me, he's there. And
I am here. I'm really here.
And you're really liked. Everybody loves you.
You like me. You really, really like me.
Exactly.
Kevin, how you doing today?
I'm awesome. Thank you. Welcome. And I'm glad that you arranged our guest to come and see us, because we've got, there's so much to talk about, and there's so many ways.
I know. And as usual, we're probably going to have a really hard time fitting stuff into an hour, but we're going to talk about some stuff and then see where it goes from there. But I tell you, I've been on the fringe of this particular individual's realm for quite a while, and I've participated in some programs with her, and we've been in some networking groups together and such, but we never actually really met until recently. And we still haven't met in person, but we haven't connected even more closely until recently. And I found out even more about some of the cool stuff that she's doing. And like you said, she's a trainer, she's a speaker. She talks about leadership, helps people find that aha moment in their life, helps people find their ways to success. She talks about fear, and I definitely want to get into that today. And recently she's delved into the realm of fiction, and she's now taking what she knows about the real world and bringing that into the realm of fantasy and science fiction. So I want to see all of that transition. I'm eager to learn more about that. So without further ado, let's bring on Leslie Flowers.
Hey, Leslie, nice to see you. How are you?
I am wonderfully well. How are you both?
We're doing awesome, Leslie. Thank you.
I'm doing well, and John's doing well. I guess we're doing well. I wanted to ask,
well, that's a deep subject. Well,
it is. I wanted to start though by asking you, where did you come from, and your background a little bit, because in looking at, if you go to LinkedIn and just look up Leslie Flowers, you'll find that she does an amazing array of things. And where did all this begin for you?
Well, thank you for asking. So it all began in New York, where I was born in Crown Heights, and at 3 left there because I knew it was going to be a hellhole. And so the whole family moved to Massachusetts, and I grew up outside of Boston. And then during those younger years, I did ballet and modern dance and theater and singing. And then we moved to North Carolina and then out to California, where I registered for San Francisco State, which was the #2 drama company or school in the United States, second to Carnegie Tech at that time, and studied drama with the greats, and went to UCLA one summer before I graduated high school and got to perform for Burt Lancaster. So my life has been musical, dancing, colorful. It's my nature. I'm a philosopher and a creator. I don't always follow up as well. So I flew troops into Vietnam. I'm an adventurer and very busy doing fun and creative things all my life. So that was my nature.
Well, and I want to point this out because we had an epiphany yesterday. One of our associates who's younger, and I mentioned the name Burt Reynolds, and she'd never heard of the name Burt Reynolds. So there are people that have no earthly idea who Burt Lancaster is.
I understand, but you do, don't you, Kevin?
Well, yeah, but for the sake of our listeners and our audience, it's so funny when we make reference to some of these iconic figures, how we realize they're iconic, and then some others sit there with like question marks floating over their heads. There was definitely a deer in the headlights look with Rochelle yesterday.
It was a big deal at that time. Yeah, Burt Lancaster, won Academy Awards, was a screen actor, just did Elmer Gantry, some real classic films, if you look him up. And we were at UCLA, and the guy that I went down there with, the family, were friends of his. So he was in the audience. And my roommate married Mandy Patinkin. You guys must know who he is, the Princess Bride. And her name was Catherine Grody, and she was in the Lemon Sisters and in Reds. And she and Mandy Patinkin to this day are all over YouTube. And so that's my connection to greatness.
I don't think you know what that word means. That's
connection?
No, that's one of the lines from Princess Bride that Manny says, because the short bald guy, I forget what his name is, and he says, "Inconceivable."
Huh? Was it Cyrano? Is that who you're talking about? Cyrano de Bergerac?
No. In Princess Bride.
Oh, I've never seen it. Can you imagine?
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Well, his word every time something went wrong, he would say inconceivable. And of course things continued to go wrong, and he kept saying inconceivable. And so Mandy Patinkin looks at him and says, I don't think that word means what you think it means. Or I don't think
so, but in any event, Burt Lancaster was a true A-lister. He was there alongside of Cary Grant and other, like John Wayne and all of those guys in that day. So congratulations. And that also means that you've been around for a little while, so you've learned a lot over time.
I have, and I'm grateful to still be alive. I mean, I have many years under my belt, and I'm grateful for every year and every day that I have, because I really get to live life the way I always dreamed and imagined it would be. You know how you want it to be a certain way, and you wish and you wonder. And I've actually finally gotten here where I actually get to do what I love doing, that I don't have to worry about money. I'm not a wealthy woman, but I've never been focused much on money. It's more about the impact that the work I do and how it helps people. So right now I'm living my best life and grateful for every minute, and so excited to connect with both of you, gentlemen.
Well, it's really,
she called us gentlemen.
I know that's a misnomer from, but what's really cool, and one of the things that you do, Leslie, in looking at your work, that you try and help everybody get to that place where you are, and really honestly where I am, because I'm doing exactly what I came here to do. And to talk to people like you and to encourage people to live a better life. But that's one of your core missions, isn't it?
Well, it is, because I over the years I've been able to figure out what the actual process is to get here. And it's been 20,000 hours and a dozen books and, a lifetime of experience, that there is actually a way. I used it. My clients get to use it. And it's like, we're supposed to live abundantly. We're supposed to feel happy, healthy, and wealthy. But the universe, if you will, or God, however you look at this omnipresent source, if you will, of love and energy that we co-create with, the idea is that we're supposed to live a wonderful life. However, in God's infinite wisdom, he dropped in conscious awareness. And along with that, the subconscious and the mind and the fears that live in the subconscious that we have perfect faith in. So when people say, well, fears are false evidence appearing real and all that stuff, let go of your fears. you can't do that. That's not physically possible or mentally possible. So the idea is to get really smart about what it is that scares us all. Everybody has these fears,
But aren't
except
those fears there to help us to survive and to be able to?
when we're 7, yes. When we're
Ah,
little kids, yes. But, the reason people don't like to speak or do public speaking is because they had an experience of humiliation. And every time to this day, there are full grown adults who get nauseous when they're asked
oh
to
yeah,
speak in front of a group.
number
So,
one
yes,
fear.
they are when you're 7. The problem is that we've been listening to and repeating and reminding ourselves of the failure that we experienced so many times that they're deep seated. And we only think one thing at a time. So, what's it going to be? Is it going to be fear or faith? And so the work we do is building faith in our ability and deservability to outweigh those fears and to create new beliefs in ourselves. So there's an actual process to outsmart fears. And then it becomes like a game. It really is like a game.
Well, and you just reminded me of something that I heard just the other day. We would like to think that there are people on the planet that are really, really gifted and they don't experience fear. They've been through it all. And when Elton John and John Lennon got together and wrote Whatever Gets You Through the Night, Elton John said, if this comes to number one, you have to come on stage with me and do it. John Lennon was with the Beatles. He had been in front of thousands and thousands of people for years and years and years. But right before he was introduced, he threw up because of the fear that he had of going back on stage. So it doesn't matter who you are. We all have the same exact experiences.
Well, not exactly, but
Not exactly.
close enough. We have the reaction. We have the way we feel, which is lousy. It's a very low vibration. It doesn't feel good to remind yourself when you fell on your face, right? And then every time over your life, over all these decades that we've lived, anytime you fail, right, it's embedded in your subconscious. Now, what happens to this gentleman throwing up, when you bring it back up and you get triggered like that, you go back to the original age. So the memory is tied to your age. So now you're a 6-year-old, humiliated because you flubbed your lines and everybody was laughing at you. And you said internally, I'm never getting up in front of people again, right? Which seems smart. And that's what you're talking about, John. The
Yeah, the
survival.
self-preservation thing. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
And it is. And it is, but it's a two-edged sword. Yes, it protects you, and it also holds you back your whole life. And so you can actually outwit and outweigh those fears once you know the process. And that's what I teach. So it's that easy.
Well, it may be easy for you, but there are people who live their whole lives dealing with fear
Yes,
in
we
and
all do.
yeah.
They
And
never goes away. The fears never go away. Right? That's another thing. Sometimes people say, well, you can change your fears or you can let go of them. No, you just create new beliefs and have faith in new things that are now more valuable. They outweigh, you practice catching the fear popping up. And then you simply remind yourself whenever you can that there is an opposite. And so then you begin to think about that, because whatever we think about the most and the way we feel is really our attitude. And so a positive attitude is going to yield. Anyway, I'm sure you want to ask some
No,
questions. I could go on
no,
forever. So
I mean,
stop me.
you're going down a great path. I mean, the thing
Okay.
is, we all know the first 10 things that go through your mind when you're facing some new situation is the first 10 things that you think about are the last 10 times you failed. And so you
Exactly.
think of all of these reasons why, or all these ways that things can go wrong. But in learning to reframe and to understand, hey, things can go right, and here's some examples of how I was able to make this not go wrong. You learn from it and you keep going and you focus on those positives, like you're saying. And that's, I think this is a great direction. But let's, and we can dive into that even a little bit more if you'd like to. I mean, so don't worry about stopping a conversation and say, well, you guys want to ask some questions. Come on, let's just talk.
Well, but first we're going to stop this conversation.
Oh, because we have to take a commercial break.
We need to take a quick break, and we will continue more with Leslie Flowers. And right after we take this really quick break, don't go away, anybody. Are you looking for a powerful way to grow your brand while making a real difference? Well, Positive Talk is the perfect platform to align your message with inspiration, hope, and meaningful conversations. By sponsoring Positive Talk, your brand will reach an engaged audience that values positivity and connection. People who want to support companies that share their values. Take this opportunity to showcase your business in a space that uplifts, inspires, and creates lasting impact. Don't wait. Email me, Kevin at kmmedia.pro today to learn how you can partner with us and spread positivity while growing your brand. And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. John Verico is with me. And by the way, John, thank you. You know, you haven't been with Positive Talk very long, but you have got a knack, sir, of bringing some really, really cool people to us who I have yet to meet. And I'm so excited to meet people like Leslie Flowers.
I have been very blessed to cross the paths in many ways with some really wonderful people. And, you know, it helps me to grow and helps us to get positivity and inspiration out there when I can bring these people out and help to share their stories as well. So yeah, I'm just delighted to be here, Kevin, and be part of this whole project and to be able to bring people like Leslie to the forefront.
And Leslie, I've got to ask you, because in your work, especially around fear is a big deal. And there are people that say fear is a good thing because fear keeps you out of trouble. It keeps you from extending yourself to the point. And so if you are fearful of something, just don't do it. But if you don't do things that stretch you and make you better than who you were and become who you are now, aren't you wasting your time?
Yeah. I mean, you know, but you are, yet one thing I know for sure is that everybody wakes up eventually and gets hungry and curious. Is this all there is? Because the gift of conscious awareness allows us to step outside our comfort zone. It allows us to be heart-centered in a big way, to do huge things in the world that has an impact on many, many people, regardless of what vehicle or whatever it is that you want to do. The thing is that when you're ready, you'll be ready. And so trying to convince someone, well, you really need to learn how to do this, right? Come and buy my program because you need help, right? That's ridiculous. When you're ready. Now, look, some people won't get it till they're on their deathbed, but they'll get it then. So you will get it. You'll get this whole thing that you are more, that you really are a co-creator with the universe. You know, once you understand how most of this works, it becomes clear to you. But until then, it's confusing. And I don't take any action when I'm confused, right? But once I'm clear, oh, watch out. So the whole idea is to go from confusion to clarity, to take things that are maybe a little uncomfortable or we don't understand and dig in just a little bit. But if you don't want to do that and you're not ready to do that, that's fine, right? There are very few people that really do this work ultimately that stick with it, that can set and achieve goals consistently, that live a life of wealth, health, and happiness. We're all aspiring for that. But I've discovered that people aren't always ready and willing to do the work when I think they should, or when someone else thinks they should, right? So it's a sense of freedom that when you feel this within yourself, that there is more and that you have more, then there is a path and a process that you can follow to build faith in yourself, to build confidence, and to outwit and effectively disprove those 7-year-olds' fears. Once you can do that, if you take on something that you failed at repeatedly and then you achieve it, you've technically disproven the fear. It's still there, but you have a better sense of yourself. You have more confidence. You've disproven it. Then you move on to another fear.
You know, this presentation that we do, in the opening, I say who you really are and why you're really here. And finding that out is paramount to living your best life, and which is, I know, what you believe in. And that happened for me when I was 42.
Yeah.
And I woke up and I said, why am I here? And what am I supposed to be doing? This selling dead chicken to people ain't it. So it was like I wanted to find out more, and then I opened the door. And tell me if this works for you. Opened the door to the universe and said, "Okay, why you tell me, why am I here, and what am I supposed to be doing? And you help me go down that road." Is that a good place to be?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. First of all, you have to give up that somebody else or some other outside circumstance is going to give you what you want, right? You have to give up being lazy. I mean, listen, most people, according to Napoleon Hill in his classic Think and Grow Rich, one of my specialties, he says it's not till we're about 50 when we get this itch, right? Because we're busy living life. We're busy with whatever it is. It just seems like middle age is when everything for many opens up. But one of the fears is comparing ourselves to other people.
There we go. Exactly.
Right? So that's really the fear of criticism, the fear of judgment. We've all been through this. So, but
the fear of not being enough.
Absolutely. And you've proven that you're not enough. There's proof. You failed over and over and over again. But you see, that's the mystery and complexity of alchemy and our ability to take ideas and turn them into physical matter. So it's really fun once you figure out the 7 universal laws, right? We talked about polarity, which is the reframe, the opposite. There's always a positive when there's a negative. There's no inside without an outside. If you know this, then you can do that, what you mentioned, John, which is to reframe.
Right.
But remember, the power of your fear takes precedent because it's been practiced for decades. So
it is a huge act of bravery.
It is
to take that step, to open the door to the universe, to accept the fact that, okay, I've done what I can to this point. What is next? And to even ask that question sometimes is a fearful, potentially fearful thing. So how can you help people to realize that there is a step, and in not pushing them when they're not ready, but how do you get them to recognize that there's a potential there and that they can succeed if they do take that step?
Well, one of the things I do is acknowledge people for how I see them and who they really are. So when someone tells me, gee, Leslie, you're really good at this, and we really like how you do this, it's always better than what I think of for myself. So I think we all begin with a little bit of hurtful pride and confidence, and we don't see ourselves perhaps the way others see us. So the first thing I do, I've taught myself and all my clients, is look for the greatness in everybody. There's greatness and there's crap, right? And we're going to look for what we have the most of. So if we find the negative in other people, it's a reflection of the things we don't like about ourselves. So when you begin to intentionally look for the good in each person, one thing, it could be one little thing, rather than he's wearing the different color socks or whatever it is that we complain about, right? Something silly. What happens is it builds that your own muscle of greatness, and you begin to notice greatness in other people as a byproduct of this work. And so what I'll say is, John, I don't think that you understand that while you're gregarious and outgoing and you have a great sense of humor, the thing about you that I like the most is when you express empathy for others. This is a characteristic. It's a virtue. It's an element of your character that I want you to understand that you are phenomenal at. And then that opens up your heart and you go, wow, I didn't know I was so great. And you really are. So that's one of the things that I will do to get a person to kind of open up and be comfortable enough to consider what's being said, not to take it on, not that they should, but it's like you're open up just enough to think, rather than rejecting it, oh, I'm not really like that, right? A lot of times when people compliment you, you're looking around like, oh, were you talking to me? Right? Right. I am. And so in my audio rooms, I do that with everybody. When I see them, who are they for me? So when I see John, I don't see the guy who does really cool graphics. I see the empath, the empathetic man who listens. That's what I see. Yeah. And so that you see how that makes you feel, John. How did that make you feel? Anyway,
made me feel great. And it actually reminded me of when I started to change my own mindset towards others. And I had gone through some rough stuff with some bad bosses that made me feel like I didn't matter and that I couldn't achieve and all that other stuff. We all go through that. We face those kinds of people that do that to us. But I went to an event and there was a guy speaking there. And I don't know if you know him, Michelangelo Caruso. Have you ever met him? He's a speaker and a writer and a coach and things like that. And one of the things that he said, find something you like about people you don't like. And it was like, well, that's silly, but oh my God, that's brilliant. And I started to look at people in a different light. And when I saw things, and there were people that, there are people out there that we just want to strangle, right? But at the same time, there's something you find about them. So this actually got me in trouble because with my wife, because we were walking, and my wife is very non-critical of people, but we happened to be walking and we were in a mall or someplace shopping. And this woman walks past us, in the opposite direction. And she, God bless her, she was rather homely. And my wife, who's never critical of anyone, went kind of like, ooh. And I said, yeah, but she had pretty eyes. And my wife smacked me. And she said, and I said, what? I said, I wasn't flirting or anything. She goes, no. So I'm ugly, huh? I said, what? She goes, well, you told me you fell in love with me because of my eyes.
There's no winning when you're married.
There's no winning. But no, in all seriousness, that finding something you like in people you don't like and realizing that what you said, there's greatness in everybody. You just got to find it.
Yes, and the magical part about it is it inflates your own greatness because it's a muscle that grows in direct proportion to its use. How do you use it? You use it by intentionally finding that thing and recognizing it. Now, I can be.
And by the way, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
He's going to be hell to live with now.
I know. Now I can be a little cavalier.
I smack you with my empathy.
Oh yeah, that's a good example. I'm going to tell you that the few people that know me, I can be a little offhanded, and not in a mean way, but I can be critical. But one of my very best friends always says no judgment, no judgment. And I just spent time with this friend, and the repetition reminding me, right after I'd had a drink and people, weren't doing things the way I thought they should. Right? Right. Do it my way or you're wrong.
Yeah,
right?
There's only two ways to do this.
so having a people around you that also do this, kind of feeds into, you're with the 5 people that you spend the most time with.
Yep.
And so it kind of helps for everybody to stay on, on that course of always looking for the positive, because it grows you. You begin to be more great, right? And so now you're looking for the greatness in others, which is a reflection of you, rather than looking for what's wrong, because that's also a reflection of the things you don't like about yourself.
Yeah.
So
there was
why
somebody who was one of those deceitful people who lied all the time and
Yeah.
would hide things, and
Yeah.
he didn't trust anyone
Well,
because
of
he
course.
assumed that they were behaving the same way around him. And with that thought, we do
Yes.
have to take a break. You're listening to Positive Talk Radio with Kevin McDonald. I'm John Verico, and our special guest, Leslie Flowers. We'll be right back after this. Kevin.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
Okay, so Sarah, I'm dropping you off at Emily's?
Yep.
And Josh, you're going to?
Soccer, Dad. Soccer practice.
Right. Oh, by the way, I just wanted to let you know when I pick you both up, I'll be wearing my short shorts.
What? No!
Yep, and my dorky dad hat, and I'm gonna do my dad dance for all your friends. They'll love it!
Seriously? Why?
Because I like my short shorts. Of course, I could be talked out of it if you guys would just buckle up your seatbelts without giving me a hard time.
It's important to get your kids to buckle up for safety, no matter what it takes. And sometimes, all it takes is your parental powers of persuasion.
Okay, we're buckling up. See, all buckled.
Good choice. I'll just have to do my dad dance at dinner time.
What?
No!
Do what you have to make sure your kids are wearing their seatbelts, even on short drives. Never give up until they buckle up. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. Visit safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup for more information.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. John Verico is here, and our guest is Leslie Flowers. You are just one incredible lady because, you've amassed all this knowledge over the years that you've been around. And it's because of the experiences that you've had in your life, I'm assuming, and that you've taken them as a positive rather than a negative and saying, this is what I learned from this. Wasn't that awful, but look what I learned from that and stuff. And is that even close? Because, see, I don't really have, I'm a positive person because I have this show, you see, it's called Positive Talk Radio. And so I've got to be positive all the time. So I don't really hate anybody, which drives my children crazy. But in any event, but Leslie, what do you think about all that?
Well, what I can tell you is that we all are on a hero's journey. We've all been in the pits. And what I've learned about universal law is that the depth of your low will be met with its exact opposite. You just don't know when. So you better be looking up. By law, the crap that you were in, you will earn by, like, it works this way all the time. At some point, you are going to be at the exact opposite in a high. So as low as it was, I mean, I can tell you, I had a wonderful life, a wonderful marriage, raised 2 children, and then everything imploded. How it happened isn't really important here. Just to know that after 33 years, I didn't want the marriage to end. Oh, it's wonderful if both people want to work on it or both people don't want it anymore. But when one does and the other one doesn't, it presents a challenge. So it was the low point of my life. truly. I mean, I sat in the dark for 2 years, went to work and came home crying. I felt like I was walking on, like my roots were cut. It was really not a good place. And then after a couple of years of that, one day I just said, okay, enough of this shit, right? Here we go. I went back and started transformational work with Landmark Education. I had done that before. I threw myself into quantum physics, metaphysics. I got really excited about redeveloping myself because after all those years, to have that marriage end like bam, and all the money disappeared too, by the way, just to make it more juicy, all of it. And there was plenty. Okay, so it's gone too. So I was kind of bereft, really. It was the toughest time of my life, but I did something, and I do believe it was divine guidance. At that time, I decided, because I'm a Sagittarius and we just do whatever we want. We don't always finish it, but we sure start it, right? Right. We like to have the ideas and let other people finish it up for us. But anyway, I was so upset that I decided, well, I'm going to open a chocolate company in the mountains of North Carolina. I had a friend who knew a chocolatier, and I got this idea. Oh, I want a chalet in the mountains. And of course, Asheville is pretty well gone after Helene, which was a big hurricane if you're listening to this later. And I got off work on Friday afternoons where I was living, and it took me 4 hours to get to the chalet on the weekend to make chocolates and to build that business. I didn't know what I was doing, but my chocolatier did. So thank God for that. And I just took the money, right? I mean, normally I wouldn't, but I took $75,000 and it ended up being my 18-month MBA. How to start and end a business and spend $75,000 at the same time. But anyway, on these trips, something magical started happening. You know, it was right around 2000, 2002, and it was a straight trip. There wasn't any music. There were no audio books. It was boring. So I started to imagine and use visualization and imagination and began to create another world, a different world, a world where there was love. Because remember, I'm in pain, right, over this dissolution. So I'm at my absolute low point. I'm really taking the low road. That's where I was. I couldn't take the high road. Oh, take the high road, right? The hell with that. I was fighting for survival, right? That's the way I felt. And it wasn't very pretty. Really, it wasn't very pretty at all as I look back and think of some of the things that I did, but it doesn't matter. So what happened is the details of the visualization, when I would get to the chocolate company, I'd type them up really quickly. What is the topography? How did the planet begin? Who are the characters? What are the products and services? It was just a game. Now, I will tell you that I created being in love with someone because that filled the hole in my heart. And what we know about love is that it's the highest vibration. And in order to do visualization, really good, visualization that actually has an impact based on your vibration, most people that are in love can become very creative. But was it a real love? I don't know. But it was what propelled me into this fantasy world. Now, I didn't write the book then. I didn't know how big the idea was. The purpose of all the notes which was like the infrastructure, was to save time or to spend time. And I didn't even know that the story was worth anything because I had written the story. Then 23 years elapse. And all of a sudden I get an idea. Well, it's time to write that story. I dug out the notes, but I had all that learning. And then I saw how big the goal was, or how big this story is. And that I wasn't a vibrational match 25 years ago. I couldn't have written the story. The universe required that I spend these decades learning and understanding what are virtues, what are values. And the book now is filled with all my work. So this is the rare case, and it's pretty rare, but it does happen, where we set a goal that is so monumental that we're really unaware of the size of it. And then we wonder why we can't achieve it. This is when the universe, who is love and wants us to succeed, says, you're not ready for this. You have learning to do. So you're not going to get this until you do this. And then this summer, out came the book. It was phenomenal. Everything went fabulous, but I was a vibrational match. I wasn't ready before. So the thing about achievement is, if you have a humongous idea that will impact the world, and this book is what we need right now in terms of thinking about virtues and values and love, because we're in a world that has a lot of problems. I mean, and so this is a place to go with your mind that is very peaceful and relaxing, so that people shouldn't give up on big, big dreams when it doesn't happen by when you think it ought to, because God or the spirit or the universe, in its infinite wisdom, knows better than we do and actually determines by when we're going to get it. So the whole process that we're talking about is really about getting information we didn't have before.
Yeah.
That's all that's missing.
And preparing us for when that time is right.
Now, before we go too far, what's we haven't said the name of the book. What's the name of the book that came out?
Okay, it's called The Possibility of Errata. It's little e, big R-A-D-A. And I'm going to tell you how the name came about, so that, because errata is like, what the hell is that, right? It was during those years that I was healing and studying, I connected with a group of Hare Krishnas close to my home. Now, these people are way ahead of us spiritually. These are not the people that you remember for the airports jumping around in the orange
with the flowers and the shapes.
These are not those people. These people know all of this stuff way before us. They're
George Harrison's people.
Yeah. They're loving people. And anyway, everybody had a certain name that was based on Krishna consciousness. And I chose Radharani, who is the female side of God. So there's Krishna is the male side and Radharani is the female side. Well, of course I would be the female god, wouldn't I? And so my nickname was Radha. And they all knew me as Radha. And that's where errata came from, because that's where I learned that when you pray and are grateful as you're cooking, as you're doing things, everything tastes better. There's something magical about the vibration of gratitude and prayer. And I learned that there. So that's just a little anecdote.
That's really cool. Now I have a little thing that I use to talk about what you were just talking about. The fact that the universe is aware of what timeline that you should be on and how all this should play out. And as a matter of fact, they've got it all figured out for you. I call it the 50,000 foot view. We get to be in the forest and we get to see the tree in front of us and the tree behind us. That's all we get, because we can't see the bigger path that we're on. So we start walking. And sometimes we walk the wrong direction. And we're gently or not so gently brought back to nudged back onto the path.
Let's use nudged, yes.
And although sometimes the nudge can be significant,
like it's a kick in the rear.
When I had a couple of surgeries and in any event, and so the 50,000 foot view is occupied by guides and our angels and people on the other side that are interested in making sure that we're doing the right thing and getting to the right place, because there's a place we want to get to, and it may be a pasture or a lake or something like that, and they help us take step by step because that's all we get at any given time is a step ahead of us. And then they teach you, and then you learn from that, and you learn more from that, and then you get to be where you're wanting to go. Does that make sense?
Well, it does. It does. I mean, you know, it's this faith over fear that you would take those steps without knowing what they are and how. And this brings up the idea of why people can't achieve consistently, because they're compelled to plot out every single step. Well, when you do that, you're setting out the steps at your current level of awareness. But now you're moving toward your goal. And if you have carved it in stone what the goal mileposts are, milestones are, when you hit an obstacle, you're going to spend a lot of time trying to solve that. But the thing is, what you've done without realizing it is that you've caused, through your own vibration, people and opportunities that will help you achieve your goal. However, they'll walk right past you if you have got everything planned out. So one of the 12 laws of achievement is only know a couple of steps at a time, and then keep your eyes open. And when someone shows up and is talking about your goal, it is not a coincidence. What you want is moving toward you at the same cellular vibration you're moving toward it. So you're actually, through the law of vibration and the subset of attraction, the universe is going to send you people, your cause, you're the source, you're a co-creator. So these people show up and you think, darn, how did they ever know that that was the answer I was looking for right now to reach this goal? Well, it was not a coincidence. You are cause in the matter. We have much more control than we think we do.
Kevin, is that or is that not our story?
There's what?
Is that or is that not our story?
That is exactly to the point. That is exactly that story. And I got to tell you, Leslie, in the last what has it been, 25 years, that has happened to me more times than I can tell you. Because, and in my entire life, everything that lined up, and because I didn't say no and I said yes to when it lined up, things just naturally happen. That's how I met my wife. That's how I learned how to be a DJ. That's how I went into acting and all of that kind of stuff, because of how it came about. And that's how I met John. John came onto my show a couple of times, and I thought to myself, you know, he's been in media for a long time, and he's got a good voice, and he's very articulate, and he seems to have a good heart and a good soul. And so what did I do then, John?
Well, wait, before that, at the same time, while he's thinking this, I was thinking, hey, I really like what Kevin's doing. We really can really bond. We're on the same vibrational level with spreading positivity and having a good grasp on our place and our mission in life. And I love the concept of Positive Talk Radio and what we're doing, or what he's doing. And I wonder if he would even consider, and how would I even ask him? How can I intrude on his life to ask him if he would be interested in taking on a co-host? And what does he do? He calls me up and says, hey, I've been looking for somebody who can be a good co-host for me.
There you go.
I never voiced it. I never even said it aloud.
But you thought it.
You manifested. Absolutely.
That's right. You visualized it, and you really wanted, you loved the idea, right? Didn't you it just juiced you up. And so, you know, you were also ready. We have different purposes, I believe, when we go throughout our life. I believe that our purpose is to serve, period. Now, and we all have the same purpose. The difference is we have different vehicles that we use to serve at different times in our lives.
And we have different people we're serving, or different missions that we have at different points in our life.
Yes. And so so people are grasping for, well, what is my purpose? And I was that one who was grasping, what is purpose? What is purpose? And then I realized that when I was raising my children and working. My purpose was that. I did a really good job. It took 20 years, right? Right. And that was my purpose. And then I moved out of that into this. And along the way, I've been teaching. So now it's at a higher level, if you will, but no less important than my purpose in serving, raising my family.
Absolutely.
So that frees everybody up to say, okay, so I was a fry chef for years, or I was a server. That was part of how you served.
Yep.
It's about doing for others that always makes us happier.
This is wonderful. Kevin, do we have to take one final break before we run out here?
Well, we have to take one final break before we run out. So, John, you undercut me again. He's gonna Leslie. He's just gonna be hell to live with now. So we need to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Last week, Brandon met a girl on a dating app. One day after work, he finally found the courage to ask her out. No answer. He started to panic. Was he being too pushy? Maybe it was too...
Hey, sorry I didn't respond. I was driving. I would love to go on a date. How does tonight sound?
Brandon tried to play it cool, but inside he knew. A girl so smart, so responsible. She must be a keeper.
Talk with Kevin McDonald. John Verico is here, and Leslie Flowers is here. She is, Leslie, you are. I've talked to a lot of people in the last 20 years, and
just a couple.
Just a couple. I've conducted well over 2,000 interviews, and everybody who has gone through your experience of life and has come out to where you are, you all say the same thing. It may be slightly different based upon personal circumstance or whatever, but basically we're all in this together and we all say the same thing. And it really is remarkable, don't you think?
I do. And that's why it's so important not to be competitive as a teacher, because not everybody resonates with the person who's speaking at the time.
Great.
And as you're growing, you got to hear these concepts from different people in different ways. And then one moment you go, oh, I got it now. Right. So it's important that we collaborate with people that do what we do, so that we can provide different perspectives, right? Slightly different perspectives, same concept, speaking it a different way, right? And then for me, my intention has always been to pare it down to the simplest form. And honestly, when I teach, it's really, to be fair, at a fourth grade level, right? I'm teaching it because I don't know, unless I've got people that are more advanced, right? And they've been working with me. I don't know what they know. And what's so important is that they get the basic concepts clear. Yeah. It has to be clear for them to move forward. So there's more simplified I can make the concepts, the sooner people will absorb it, embrace it.
Leslie, when I started over 42 years ago, when I started is in actually longer, 45 years ago, starting in journalism. Mm-hmm. and communication, we would communicate or try to communicate at the 10th grade level. And then it went, we need to communicate at the 8th grade level. And then we said, we need to communicate at the 6th grade level. I don't know what's happening with our education system, but now we're communicating at the 4th grade level so people will understand concepts.
Oh, look at there's Deirdre. She's in Australia.
Hi, good afternoon, Deirdre.
Yeah, so glad you're here. Thank you.
So Deirdre popped a message into the chat and said, yay, Leslie, love your work. So that's Deirdre McMenamin.
She's an artist. A creative, sort of modernistic. I love her, abstract in a way, and I love to see her paintings and what they remind me of. Sometimes it's fish in the sea. I mean, she's very clever that way.
Right. Sadly,
Thank you, dear.
young lady, Leslie, we're gonna run out of time.
Okay.
I want to make sure that we
Yes.
get all the information out about the 10 books that you have, and
Oh, no.
how they can touch bases with you on LinkedIn and all of that, because it's important that people reach out to you if they feel called to do so. And what does that mean? That's up to the individual, I think. But anyway.
That's exactly right. The best place to find me is on LinkedIn. Yes, I have a website, but as I was telling Kevin and John, that I'm kind of lazy about it. So just find me on LinkedIn. I do a live video on Mondays, Mind Over Matter Mondays, and every Friday at 10 a.m. I teach Think and Grow Rich. So you can easily find me and begin learning without investing anything. And then if you decide that you want to work with me, that's possible too. That's the best way to reach me.
Outstanding. And your book is The Possibility of Errata.
That's right. And you'll find it on Amazon. And the audio will be coming out this year.
That's your fiction book.
That is correct. That's number 10. Most of my books are nonfiction, right? And then I have some anthologies that I've written a chapter in, so I'm really a co-author in those. But there are 12 altogether. Now, do you have everything you need about fear? Because I remembered, I know we only have a few minutes, but I remembered that was the subject that you were interested in. Is there anything else that I can share with you that falls in that along those lines?
I think if you have just a summary sentence or two of how people can accept and overcome the fears that hold them back, that would be a great way to wrap this up for today. And we'll have to have you back to talk more.
Oh, I love that. Well, okay. So the first thing is to understand what they are. What are our fears? So we have to begin with an understanding. So we have 6. So there's just one you're fighting with. We have 6 of them. And they make a really strong force for you to play small because they are the proof that you're a failure. But we're smarter than that. So you've got the main one, fear of criticism or judgment. What will they think of me if I do it? If I do it wrong, I'll be embarrassed again. So we're not doing that. Then you have the fear of poverty, right? Which is a real thing. I don't have enough money. But on the other side of that is abundance, right? So you learn that abundance is as easily accessible as poverty, but our default is poverty. Then we have illness. Well, think about COVID. That was real. So that's another fear we could have. We could have fear of breaking up when there's a divorce or a spouse or partner dies, right? Or someone leaves. That's the fear of the loss of love of someone. Then you have the fear of old age, right? Which I don't have anymore. Neither do you, Kevin, right?
Same boat.
Right, and you too. And then death. That's the last one. So if you think about this, anytime you go to do anything, one of these big mouths are going to remind you, oh, remember COVID? Oh, remember when they broke up with you? Oh, you can't afford it. Oh, you failed before, don't, right? And so you know, that's why we play small, but you can outweigh it. And that's what being consciously aware and emotionally intelligent. So that's the best place to start, is to understand, oh, it's not just one fear. We got 6 to deal with. That's kind of a good place.
But that's a good way. That's a good way to frame them out. And thank you very much for being our guest today, Leslie. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Leslie Flowers. I'm John Verico, and this is Positive Talk Radio with Kevin McDonald.
Oh boy, he's going to be hell to live with, Leslie. I'm telling you. Thanks for listening to this episode of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Our purpose is to provide everyone with a positive, entertaining, and educational experience. I would love your feedback and comments about the show, including possible topics and great guest suggestions. Please email me at kevin@kmmedia.pro. And remember, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got. That's Kevin@kmmedia.pro. That was so